Today we test the claim that monosodium glutamate, said as MSG, is unhealthy and should be avoided. You will hear what top regulators and peer-reviewed science actually say. I will also reveal a practical bonus at the end, so please stay with me. Quick disclaimer before we start. This video is educational only and not medical advice. Individual responses vary. If you suspect sensitivity or have conditions like asthma or migraine, please consult a licensed professional. Here is our roadmap. First, what MSG is and how it compares to natural glutamate. Next, symptoms like headache and flushing. Then asthma and migraine. After that, blood pressure, metabolism, appetite, and weight. We will check how umami can cut sodium, clear up brain myths, discuss kids and pregnancy, and look at cultural history. Finally, we will deliver a bottom line with simple actions you can use tonight. MSG is the sodium salt of the amino acid glutamic acid. When it dissolves, it becomes sodium and free glutamate, the same glutamate your tongue detects as umami. According to a paper published in the Journal of Nutrition, the body handles glutamate from MSG the same way it handles glutamate released from foods like ripe tomatoes, mushrooms, and aged cheese. Modern MSG is made by fermentation of plant sugars, then crystallized for kitchen use, as explained in the Journal of Nutrition. Daily diets already contain several grams of glutamate from proteins, and added MSG usually contributes only a small fraction, according to a paper published in the American Journal of Clinical Nutrition. That is why you can think of MSG as a focused umami seasoning rather than an exotic chemical. Now that we know what it is, let us connect this to how your body actually uses glutamate in real life. Free glutamate is ready to taste as umami, while bound glutamate lives inside proteins and is released during digestion. According to a paper published in the American Journal of Clinical Nutrition, most dietary glutamate is quickly used as fuel by cells lining the intestine and is converted before it even reaches the bloodstream in large amounts. This helps explain why normal meals with MSG do not spike blood glutamate beyond the usual range, as noted in the American Journal of Clinical Nutrition. Your brain also keeps its own glutamate separate behind a protective blood-brain barrier, as explained by a paper in the American Journal of Clinical Nutrition. Quick friendly nudge. If you like clear, science-based food explainers, please hit subscribe and turn on notifications, because in a moment we will test the most famous claim of all, the so-called Chinese restaurant syndrome. According to the United States Food and Drug Administration, MSG is generally recognized as safe when used in normal amounts in foods. The World Health Organization committee called JECFA previously considered glutamates safe enough that an acceptable daily intake was not specified at typical exposures. In 2017, the European Food Safety Authority set a precautionary group intake of about 30 milligrams per kilogram body weight per day for added glutamates to keep very high users, especially children, in a conservative safety range. The European Food Safety Authority also advises labeling MSG as E621 in ingredients lists in Europe. In the United States, manufacturers must list monosodium glutamate by name if it is added, according to the United States Food and Drug Administration. With the safety context set, let us examine the most cited symptom stories and what blinded trials found. Many people have heard of Chinese restaurant syndrome, but what do controlled tests show? In a large multi-center trial published in the Journal of Allergy and Clinical Immunology, volunteers who believed they were sensitive reported more symptoms only after very large doses taken without food, and their reactions did not repeat reliably on retesting. A double-blind soup study published in Food and Chemical Toxicology found no difference in symptoms between MSG and placebo when used in realistic amounts in food. Reviews published in the Journal of Nutrition note that poor blinding and the strong expectation of bad effects can create a nocebo response. In plain language, dose and context matter. Huge bolus drinks on an empty stomach are not the same as a teaspoon shared across a family meal. Next, let us look specifically at asthma and migraine, because those worries sound scary, but the best trials are reassuring. According to a double-blind placebo-controlled challenge published in the Journal of Allergy and Clinical Immunology, 100 adults with asthma, including people who believed Chinese food triggered them, did not show bronchospasm or lung function drops after taking MSG compared with placebo. The authors concluded that true MSG-sensitive asthma is very rare. Professional groups, such as the American Academy of Allergy, Asthma, and Immunology, do not list MSG as a common asthma trigger. If you personally have reproducible breathing symptoms, talk with your clinician, but the controlled evidence does not support avoiding MSG for asthma in the general population. Since headaches are often blamed on MSG, let us move to migraine and general headaches next. A systematic review published in the Journal of Headache and Pain found that when MSG is consumed as part of a normal meal, headache rates are similar to placebo in most well-designed trials. Some studies that gave very large MSG drinks on an empty stomach did report more headaches, but masking the taste was difficult, which weakens blinding, as that review explains. Neurology groups note that common triggers like alcohol, sleep loss, and stress are more consistent than MSG. The practical take is simple. If you believe MSG triggers you, test carefully with a clinician. For most people, meal-based MSG has not been shown to cause headaches beyond background levels, according to the Journal of Headache and Pain. Now, let us widen the lens to long-term health, starting with blood pressure. A 5-year observational study in China published in the Journal of Hypertension linked very high household MSG use to a slightly greater rise in blood pressure, especially in women. However, a cross-country analysis called INTERMAP reported that higher dietary glutamate from foods was linked with lower blood pressure, as summarized in the Journal of Hypertension. The American Heart Association reminds us that total sodium intake is the dominant driver of blood pressure. Because MSG contains far less sodium than salt by weight, using MSG to replace some salt can help lower sodium in the diet. Next, we will connect this to weight and metabolism, because many people also worry that MSG causes fat gain. A Chinese cohort study published in the American Journal of Clinical Nutrition found that higher MSG users were more likely to become overweight over time. In contrast, a Vietnamese cohort published in Public Health Nutrition found no link between MSG and overweight. Adding another twist, a study published in Clinical Nutrition reported that higher MSG intake was linked to a lower risk of developing hyperglycemia. The most likely explanation is diet context. MSG often appears in both home cooking and in ultra-processed foods. Calories, salt, fat, and fiber patterns vary widely. Controlled trials have not shown that culinary MSG by itself causes weight gain. With that in mind, let us talk about appetite, because umami can change how full we feel. An experiment published in Physiology and Behavior found that adding MSG made a plain broth taste better, but because the preload had almost no calories, people did not eat less at the next meal. Other studies published in the British Journal of Nutrition and related journals reported that adding umami to protein-rich soups and meals increased satisfaction and sometimes reduced later calorie intake. The pattern is this. Umami can make healthy foods more appealing and can support fullness when paired with protein and vegetables. It is not a magic appetite switch, but it can help you enjoy better meals. This sets up a powerful strategy. Use umami to cut sodium while keeping flavor. Let us see the evidence behind that. According to reviews published in Food Science and Nutrition, replacing part of salt with MSG can reduce sodium by roughly 25 to 40% while keeping taste acceptance high in soups, sauces, and mixed dishes. Public health groups, including the Pan American Health Organization, have endorsed umami strategies as part of salt reduction programs. The American Heart Association emphasizes that cutting sodium helps lower blood pressure and heart risk. In short, MSG can be a salt-saving superpower when used wisely. Let me now show you exactly how to do this at home, step by step, with simple ratios and real meals. Start with small amounts. For each teaspoon of salt you would usually add to a family dish, try 3/4 of a teaspoon of salt plus 1/4 of a teaspoon of MSG. According to Food Science and Nutrition, this kind of partial swap often preserves flavor with much less sodium. Build flavor layers with aromatics like garlic and onion, acids like lemon juice or vinegar, and natural umami from tomato paste or mushroom powder. The American Heart Association suggests focusing on vegetables, beans, and lean proteins, where umami helps you enjoy lower sodium meals. If you are ready to try this, keep listening, because we also need to clear up the biggest fear of all, the brain myth. Some fear that MSG hurts brain cells, but according to a paper published in the American Journal of Clinical Nutrition, the blood-brain barrier prevents dietary glutamate from flooding the brain. Excitotoxic damage happens during events like stroke or severe injury and does not result from normal food intakes, as explained in the American Journal of Clinical Nutrition. A comprehensive review published in Comprehensive Reviews in Food Science and Food Safety concluded, there is no credible evidence of neurotoxicity at typical dietary exposures. Human bodies tightly regulate glutamate. The gut uses most of it before it even circulates widely, as described in the American Journal of Clinical Nutrition. With the brain myth addressed, what about kids, pregnancy, and people who think they are sensitive? According to evaluations by the World Health Organization Committee and the United States Food and Drug Administration, typical culinary use of MSG is considered safe for the general population, including children and pregnancy. Breast milk naturally contains free glutamate, which shows how normal glutamate exposure is in early life, as reported in the American Journal of Clinical Nutrition. If you believe you are sensitive, clinicians use blinded oral challenges to check whether symptoms are reproducible, as shown in the Journal of Allergy and Clinical Immunology. Friendly reminder. If you find this careful, balanced approach helpful, please subscribe now. Your support helps us make more evidence-based food videos. Next up, how this topic became so controversial in the first place. In 1968, a letter to the New England Journal of Medicine mentioned numbness and palpitations after Chinese food and used the phrase Chinese restaurant syndrome. Historians and dietitians writing in the Journal of the Academy of Nutrition and Dietetics have described how xenophobia and chemophobia amplified this into a long-lasting stigma. Meanwhile, MSG was quietly used in many Western packaged foods without the same public alarm. Modern controlled studies and regulatory reviews now reject the blanket claim that MSG is dangerous, as summarized in the Journal of Nutrition and by the United States Food and Drug Administration. Seeing how stories spread helps us focus on what data actually say. Now let us reconcile why some studies still disagree. When researchers give very large MSG doses on an empty stomach, more people report symptoms, as shown in the Journal of Allergy and Clinical Immunology, but those reports often do not repeat under blinding and with food. Blinding can fail because umami taste is noticeable, which the Journal of Headache and Pain discusses. Observational links to weight or blood pressure can reflect what else people eat, like instant noodles or salty snacks, rather than MSG itself, as the American Heart Association reminds us. The practical fix is simple. Look at dose and delivery, and prioritize randomized, well-blinded trials. With that logic, here is how to self-test sensitivity safely and calmly. Keep a simple log for 2 weeks. Note the dish, the portion, whether you were fasting or had a full meal, and any symptoms within 2 hours. According to guidance used in the Journal of Allergy and Clinical Immunology, the gold standard is a blinded challenge with your clinician, comparing a small MSG dose to placebo on different days. Also examine other common culprits. Very salty meals, alcohol, dehydration, very large portions, and poor sleep are all frequent triggers, as highlighted by the American Heart Association and neurology groups. A careful approach turns fear into clarity. If symptoms repeat only with very large empty stomach doses, simple avoidance of that situation may solve it. Aim for mostly home-cooked meals with vegetables, beans, whole grains, and lean proteins. According to the American Heart Association, this eating pattern lowers heart risk. Use MSG as a seasoning to enhance umami and cut sodium, as supported by Food Science and Nutrition. Remember the big context from the Journal of Nutrition. Glutamate from MSG and from tomatoes or cheese is the same molecule, and your body handles it the same way. With a few smart swaps, you can make healthy food taste great without oversalting. Ready for the promised bonus? Here are fast flavor hacks you can try tonight. Try this 5-minute veggie soup. Sauté onion and garlic, add tomato paste, carrots, and greens, pour in broth, then season with half your usual salt, plus a small pinch of MSG. Reviews in food science and nutrition show that this kind of swap can cut sodium by about 1/3 while keeping flavor. Build an umami pantry. Keep mushroom powder, tomato paste, parmesan, and soy sauce for depth. A strategy supported by culinary research in the British Journal of Nutrition. For meats and tofu, make a quick marinade with citrus or vinegar, herbs, a little oil, a reduced salt level, and a tiny dash of MSG. The American Heart Association supports lowering sodium while keeping meals enjoyable, which is exactly what these hacks deliver. Here is the bottom line. The blanket statement that MSG is unhealthy and should be avoided is not supported by the balance of evidence. According to the United States Food and Drug Administration and the World Health Organization Committee, JECFA, normal culinary use is safe. And the European Food Safety Authority sets a conservative daily guidance to protect very high users. Controlled trials published in the Journal of Allergy and Clinical Immunology and the Journal of Headache and Pain do not show consistent symptoms when MSG is eaten with food in realistic amounts. Reviews in food science and nutrition show that MSG can help you reduce sodium without losing flavor. Educational note: this video is not medical advice. Individual responses vary. If you suspect sensitivity or have medical conditions, please consult a licensed professional. If this helped, please like and subscribe, and tell us in the comments what food or nutrition myth you want us to test next.